What's up, everyone? Today I'm reviewing the fifth book in the Goosebumps Hall of Horror series, Don't Scream. So this one is about our protagonist, Jack. He discovers this cell phone on his school bus on his ride home, and he picks it up and starts hearing this mysterious voice coming through the phone. This girl's voice starts saying things like, "Do you want to be my friend? I'm going to be your new best friend." She just says some other weird things, and at first Jack thinks it's a prank of some sort, naturally. And this voice continues to talk to him, and Jack is asking her questions and everything, and of course she's being very vague and mysterious and kind of creepy. And then Jack decides to just leave the phone on the school bus, and once he arrives to his stop, and then as he gets off the bus and starts walking to his house or whatever, one of his classmates says, "Hey, you forgot your phone," and throws him the cell phone. And he takes the phone, and this voice continues to talk to him, and he tries shutting off the phone, and she continues talking to him even though the phone is shut off. And then he looks at the phone and he discovers there's pictures of himself and his family on it. And the suspense and mystery really start to build from there. So this whole book is basically about him versus Jack versus this mysterious entity that's speaking through this electronic device. Now, I don't want to talk about the plot too much more. I don't want to spoil anything, but that's the basic premise of this book. And I'll talk about what I like about this book first, because first of all, the idea presented here is quite a bit different than what we've seen previously. Goosebumps books tend to reuse a lot of the same plot ideas, and I do see some similarities between this book and a couple of the originals, or a couple from the original Goosebumps series, I Live in Your Basement and My Best Friend is Invisible, where there's this mysterious person or thing speaking to our main character that no one else can really hear or see. So there's some similarities to those two books. But apart from those, this one is a pretty unique and different idea. It's also very modern. There's a lot of references to technology and everything, and a lot of the plot revolves around this mysterious entity that lives within these electronic devices. And going along with this idea, and this is another aspect about this book that I really like and really appreciate, is there's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are some underlying themes with this book. And that's not something we see too often with Goosebumps. And so I really appreciate when that's done here. It's almost kind of like a social commentary going on in regards to cell phone usage and social media addiction, possibly, along with some other things. I believe maybe just electronic addiction in general and some other stuff. There's some deeper meaning to this book, is basically what I'm trying to say. And I really did appreciate that because, again, that's not something you see too often in Goosebumps books. So when it's done, it's very noticeable, and I really appreciate that. A lot of Goosebumps books are just for cheap entertainment, and if you want to, you could really analyze this story and dissect it a little bit. There is a little bit of thought-provoking stuff in here, but I'm not going to get into that too much because I'm not here to analyze it. Now, this is just a book review, but if you wanted to get something more out of a Goosebumps book, this is one of the few that you could do that with. So that's another thing I liked about this book. One thing I also really liked is how grounded this book is in reality. As crazy as technology is nowadays, I feel like the plot, the premise of this one isn't entirely far-fetched. I feel like it almost could happen in today's day and age. And to me, the more grounded the horror is, the more effective it is. And you really do feel that at times. I really think some of the suspense in this book is very effective. It's done very well. There's this nice mystery aspect regarding this mysterious voice on the other side of the phone. There's some little bit of tension. There's some very tense moments and scenes in this book. And it's pulled off pretty well for the most part. I do have some complaints, but I'll get to those in a minute. Another thing I really like about this book is some of the character relationships and dynamics and how they interact with one another in here. The main character, Jack, he is a little bit one-dimensional, along with most Goosebumps characters. But the parents in this book, for one thing, are a little bit more realistic, I think, and believable than in a lot of other Goosebumps books. In most Goosebumps books, the parents are kind of there to just act as the characters that don't really believe anything that's going on with our main character, and they're just kind of there, but not really doing anything, and never very believable characters. And in here, that's not the case. They feel a little bit more fleshed out than a lot of other Goosebumps parents. And then also some of his friends, they're good characters. And there's also some bullies in here that are always picking on Jack, our main character. And while that's a kind of a common theme in Goosebumps, there's always seems like there's some bullies. These ones feel like they have a little bit more personality to them. And one of the main themes of this book also has to do with like bullying and stuff. And it feels like Jack is kind of going up against these two bullies almost as much as he's going up against this mysterious entity. And there's kind of a weird parallel there that fits into the story nicely, but it's also another aspect of the story that could be analyzed a little bit, and I think kind of goes hand in hand with some of the underlying themes, which, again, that's another thing I really liked about this book, is it's kind of layered. It's not super one-dimensional. It's not just cheap thrills and entertainment. There's some stuff going on in here and some things you can take away from this book. So yeah, that's what I really liked about it. And overall, I did really enjoy this book. I thought it was pretty good, and like I said, a very unique, different feeling Goosebumps book. Unlike the last book in the series, Why I Quit Zombie School, this one is a lot more serious, a little bit darker, and not quite as humorous. There's a couple of funny moments in here, but it's a lot more on the serious side. It's completely contrasts Why I Quit Zombie School, the last one in the series. So yeah, on to the things I didn't really like about this book is how Jack acquires the phone in the beginning and kind of the setup to the whole ordeal with him discovering it, and how he continues to keep the phone in his possession. It just felt a little bit unbelievable to me. There were some decisions made that were there to just kind of drive the plot forward, and I don't like it when it's obvious that's what the book is doing. I think it could have been written in a little bit more naturally. Jack is not exactly the brightest of characters, but again, it's just there to kind of, the decisions he makes are just kind of there to keep the story rolling and keep him under this threat and keep the tension going. But yeah, I didn't think it was done in the best way possible. Again, that's just my opinion. Another thing I didn't really care for is, again, Jack was a little bit one-dimensional, and I did feel for him at times. I did have a little bit of sympathy for him with all of the crap he was taking from the bullies, and this threat he's going, this mysterious voice that's haunting him and living in these electronic devices. But at the same time, the story felt a little bit empty, and I don't know if that's just because I couldn't really get super immersed because Jack didn't feel super believable to me, but I don't know. Something just felt like it was missing a little bit. Kind of like Claws to me. It just felt a little bit hollow in some areas. I'm not really sure exactly what it is. I'm having a hard time pinpointing what it is about the book. But the very first Hall of Horrors book, Claws, I had the same issue with. It just felt a little bit empty in some areas. It felt like it was missing some substance, even though it excelled in some areas and others just not quite as much. I'm having a hard time articulating exactly what that is. But anyway, moving on from that. The ending also, I really did not like. The ending was just raised a lot of questions. Already when we get to the ending, there's some questions that don't really get answered. There's a lot of things that go unexplained. And then when we get that last final twist, it raises some more unanswered questions that, I don't know, things just don't get resolved very well. And I feel like the ending, the twist ending, is a little bit forced, just kind of for the sake of having a twist ending. And that's another kind of common theme with Goosebumps books. A lot of them just suffer from poor endings, and the Hall of Horror series is really no exception, to be honest. And while the ending isn't completely terrible, it just leaves a lot of loose ends, and I think that's why I don't like it, is it just leaves too many loose ends. And that's kind of also the issue I had with The Five Masks of Dr. Scream, is that the ending in that book also just left a lot of loose ends, things unexplained, things that didn't make sense. And yeah, I don't think R.L. Stine gives his even young readers enough credit. There's just too many plot holes and missing logic in the plot that just kind of brings it down for me a little bit. It doesn't completely ruin it, but I just feel like it could have been a lot better than it was. One other minor complaint I have with this book, and this is more of a nitpick, is there's a lot of cheap chapter endings in here. The type along the lines of, something bad was about to happen, I just knew it, or this was when the nightmare really was about to start. Things of that nature, something you see in more amateur middle grade horror books like the American and Michigan Chiller series. R.L. Stine usually doesn't resort to those types of things very often, but he did it quite a few times in here. And while it didn't ruin it or anything, it was a little bit distracting and was slightly annoying. One other thing I did want to mention too, I almost forgot to mention this, is in the beginning of the book when he discovers the pictures of himself and his family on this cell phone, that idea is never expanded upon. Initially, it adds a little bit more mystery and tension to the story, but we never go back to that point. We never learn why those pictures of him are on the cell phone. We never learn the origins of this phone. And we also never really learn the motives. We kind of learn the motive of the villain of this mysterious voice, but not really. And again, I'm just kind of coming back to the point of where it leaves a lot of things unexplained, and it really brings it down for me a little bit. I would have liked some more explanation, at least explain why his pictures were on the cell phone and the reason for that. I think they really could have expanded on that. So yeah, in summary, guys, this was a pretty good book overall. Again, pretty unique idea. There's a little bit of a social commentary going on here, some layered meaning. Definitely some suspenseful moments, but I feel like it just wasn't executed the best. I feel like it could have been a lot better than it was. I just have some complaints with it that bring it down for me, and I feel like I wasn't able to enjoy it as much as I was hoping or as much as I wanted to. So again, this is not a bad book at all. I'd say this is one of the better books in the Hall of Horror series, but it's not my personal favorite. That's about all I have to say for this one, guys. If I had to rate this one from 0 to 5 stars, I would probably give this around 3.5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I'm going to be doing my Hall of Horrors ranking video pretty soon here. I'm hoping to have it up later this week or by the weekend. So keep an eye out for that, guys. That's my review of Hall of Horrors Don't Scream. Let me know what you guys think of this book. If you've read this, let me know what you think. Get down in the comment section, share your thoughts. And that's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.